Hi, my name's Debbie Island and I am the Managing Director of Share the Point Limited, a company that specialises in Microsoft Teams and Office 365 training and events. We sincerely believe that it is the people, not the technology, that is at the core of any change and transformation. We also believe that everyone needs the support, the resources and the training to empower them to take on these new tools and to adapt to new ways of working. It's what we're passionate about and it's also what we're great at. This presentation you're about to watch is something that we put together for a few clients who rapidly had to move into working remotely. And then, of course, the pandemic has thrown us all into working from home. It's something I think I've done for about 15 years, and this presentation is the combined years of experience and also a little bit of research that we've compiled from different pieces of knowledge and that we thought would be useful. So please enjoy.
Mastering remote working madness. So for some, remote working is already second nature. We've been doing it for a while, and I know in this group of people we have a real mix. So for others of you, it's brand new, and the idea behind this session is to provide some guidance and consider what you need to think about when getting ready for this transition. So we've broken it up into 3 M's, or 3 different areas, 3 M's of remote working. We've got the mechanics, which are the physical aspects that you need to get sorted to enable working outside the office. We've got all the mindset or behavioural type changes, the attitudes, the ideals around the way you work. And then we've got the methods of how you might look at working differently and things that can enhance this. So note that some of these things are related to working in the office as well, but we take them for granted, and perhaps now is just a time to look at some of those things and improve on them, and it's a good way to assess how we work in general. So let's take a look firstly at the mechanics, and this is the physical factor. So what we need are the right tools for the job and where we need to be. So it's all about creating a space that's a consistent environment for you to work in, even if the location's changing. And then that extends into the equipment you use, making sure you have everything to do your job no matter where you are. And then we'll also discuss a little bit on mobility, which is about being able to move around freely and easily and setting yourself up so that working remotely is enjoyable and provides you the freedom to do your job from anywhere. So your space and supplies, a few tips for setting up your office. First of all, and I think this is, it's really hard for some people, but we try to say the ideal is if you can choose a location that's out of the main family traffic areas, that's best. So the kitchen's probably not the best choice if someone else is going to be home and hungry while you're working. And this is no doubt going to get harder if we're all going to be at home. So try to find something that's just for you. Try to avoid disruption like noise and clutter. As I said, ideally a separate room if you can. But change it up. I know for me and several people that I talk to, if your environment allows it, especially if you're at home alone, sit on the couch some of the time if you want to, or in warmer months, sit outside at an outside table. Move into the office for meetings, obviously, or if more privacy is needed. But it doesn't always have to be that you're in the one place. Experiment to find what you like and keep it. So different locations, different configurations, different screens. I think it takes a while to kind of settle in. It's like moving into a new house. Look at ergonomics. So look at how your desk is set up, and we can provide some links and tools to just doing checks for that purpose. And then you've got comfortable furniture, all that sort of stuff's really important. Humanize the space. So this is not everyone's cup of tea. I know for me it's important. I like to make sure that I've got enough light in the room, put pictures up, select somewhere that's got a view. Definitely natural light for me, but everyone's a little bit different. Set up an atmosphere. So some people like podcasts and music, stimulate your senses with smell or sounds. For others, me again, I prefer silence, so I have to be in a quiet area. Make sure your seat's comfy and the temperature's right. Think about office supplies, so get those that mimic the ones in your office and working style, post-it notes, tissues, calendars, all that good stuff. And actually, a funny one that I read about was also thinking about snacks and drinks and other supplies that you have in the office. Like you go to the fridge and you know you've got your favourite drink there or whatever. Make sure you've got the same stuff at home. You'll be surprised what you miss. But probably more so, you'll probably notice that you're more tempted to do different things at home when you've got the fridge and the pantry right at your fingertips. So make sure you're stocked with whatever those supplies are. The next thing's all about equipment. So yes, there's the basic things like desk, chair, laptop, monitor, all of that good stuff. Your headset's probably a main one for virtual meetings, and we'll talk about different ways when we get to that part. But there's other basic things you've got to think of when you first set up. So the first one's internet, and if you haven't yet worked from home before, it's connecting to your Wi-Fi, making sure that you're in a spot in the house that you're getting good Wi-Fi signals. We'll give you a link to do speed test, just speedtest.net, but we'll give this to you later. And that's a good way of checking when you're in the office doing a speed test to see what the speed is there versus what you get at home, so that then you know whether the issues you're getting are related to your internet speed or perhaps related to the applications that you're using. Think about having a backup. So for all of us, we use our phones a lot, so make sure you know how to hotspot from your phone if you absolutely have to, and then how you do that from your computer or just using your phone. All the tools that we're going to be showing you today, you can do pretty much everything on your mobile, and that's going to become more and more important. Think also about the bandwidth. So if you've got kids home, if they're on holiday or lockdown or back from university, then are you going to think about placing limits on Netflix or online games or during working hours, or how are you going to manage that? Yeah. Systems and access. So you want to be able to check everything is the same as you work at work, and it might be a good place to start just by making a really simple checklist of the apps you need to get to, and then doing a quick check that they operate in the same way when you're at home. If you are logging into different systems that require the network, then this may change. So it's just a good chance to make sure that everything works the same. And I'm kind of assuming here that you guys are all using the same laptop you use at work. However, there might be the times where you have to use a laptop at home. So again, that's really important to make sure you can get to the applications and get that access that you need. From an equipment point of view, you probably need to check, and this is more for the management there, of what's going to be supplied by work and what you need to have in order to do your job. So that's stocking up on the necessary dongles, adapters, cords, wires, and having a lack of that necessary connectors and stuff can decrease your connectivity. So make sure you've got enough of everything. From the mobility point of view, working remotely is not necessarily just about working from home. Being mobile can be working from a hotel, in a car, even on site with different clients or people in your training areas and so forth. So if working remotely becomes the norm ongoing, you need to make it as simple and seamless as possible. And this, of course, depends again on how your policies are within the organisation for providing some of this equipment, but just food for thought. When I travel, it depends on the car I'm in. So my car has a hands-free, but my mum's, which I use sometimes, doesn't. So I use my Bluetooth headset. At the office, I have a docking station, so I don't need to carry power cables to and fro. And at home, I have a different standing desk because it suits me and the space that I work in. And then when I'm visiting clients, I ensure I have the relevant cords, power chargers, and even mobile cables, and even a headset. So probably more so, it might be easier to build a go bag with everything you need to be ready to go. And so that means if you're leaving the office, you know you've remembered to take your power adapter, you're this, you're that, you're everything else. Or if you haven't got, you know, as I said, I've probably got duplicates of everything so I can just up and move. But if you don't, you need to remember what you need to remember. So a simple checklist again might help you with that. Number 2 is about mindset, and it really is a shift for employees and employers to let go of some of the traditional ideas. So this highlights how important it is to consider factors like work-life balance or integrating the work elements into our home lives as people begin to work from home. It includes more flexible work practices, changing your own expectations of yourself and of those that you work with. So this is a time to ensure that all your team and your colleagues are supported so that we can stay connected and ensure that that communication keeps on going. I love this quote: expectations are premeditated resentments. It probably should say unrealistic expectations, but whenever we think of expectations, unrealistic ones, I mean, we get whenever we set them, we often get disappointed. For example, if you're going to brunch and you have this great, absolutely dying to get there and have this beautiful, wonderful breakfast, and it comes out not quite how you wanted, you're going to get disappointed when it's not quite as you expected it. Or if you do something for someone and you expect a certain outcome, you expect someone to act or communicate in a certain way and they don't, you start to feel resentful towards that person. And whereas they, on the other hand, had no idea about your expectations and are acting from a good intention. So expectations are paramount when it comes to thinking about the way that we work. In that pyramid, trust, actually I've got it at the top, but I say that it's the foundation to success, so I'm a bit upside down there. But the success of remote working depends heavily on whether you can trust your employees to do their work, even if you can't see them. And I think that's one of the most common things I hear people say. They're like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that because, it's not visible. So things that are visible when you're working side by side in a virtual environment need to be explicitly stated and accepted. So you have to be quite comfortable with sharing the fact that or be open that you have a family need that requires attention or something if you need to drop out of a meeting, or give a heads up if you need more time to complete a task. And overall, managing those expectations in time and deliverables. So being open and transparent with the communication is the only way to build that trust. Alongside that are the perceptions, because changing mindsets means setting very clear expectations and communicating these and defining what those guidelines are. So if we think it used to be, and hopefully it's not like that so much anymore, but I know many years ago, it was all based on the amount of hours you spent in the office. And this is what determined or what showed that you were hardworking. People could see you were there. You were the first to get there and the last to leave. So you got this invisible badge of honour. It's similar to emails sent at 4 a.m. that show that you're up there and you're doing it. But I think times have changed and workplace wellbeing has become the norm now. But this is even more important when it comes to working remotely. So what we suggest is that looking to measure your productivity, look at the outputs. So the work you accomplished, 3 goals to accomplish today, 10 decisions that you want to get made, rather than the inputs being the time you spent at your desk or the fact that you worked 10 hours when you actually didn't do much and some of this time could have been spent doing other things at home. So this also relates back to that trust factor, because if you give them certain tasks, your manager can have more trust in the fact that you're working if the outputs are transparent and achieved. So what you see as okay, of course, might not be what your boss sees as okay. So this is again something about, it's all in the perception, but also all in the way that we agree things with our colleagues and with our employees and employers. So you have to explore what those expectations are, like things of working hours. Is it going to be exactly the same? And there's a few trains of thoughts, and I've kind of presented it. I will present a few of these, but it depends on your manager, what your work culture is and what you all agree on. Personally, I think if you're in a position where you can have flexible hours and your boss agrees, it means that you can leverage a time of day when you are most productive. And I know for me, it's early mornings, whereas I know for Josh, he's not a morning person. So if you can do this, do it, but make sure people know when you'll be available for them as well. Home's also a really relaxed environment, and it's more productive for some people because they can do things in their own time. It allows for life integration. So breaks can include time to hang the washing out and take time to help the kids do homework. But this is a change of thinking, and often I remember when I first started doing it, I felt really guilty because I was doing something when I should be doing work. But I think it's actually being able to segment that out. So you do have to see whether this is a break and being integration or whether it's a distraction. And then on that note as well, professional and personal rules provide perimeters for everyone. So these are the boundaries, and they are very personal, as everyone has different styles which work within their home environment. But give it some thought. So set boundaries with other members of the house. Sometimes the family needs to be educated that this is new for them as well. So make a rule to have no devices at meal times if you want to start the personal side of things, or at times you share together, or switch off and watch a number of hours that you're working, because stats do say that they increase with home working. So keep an eye on that. With colleagues and with managers, set your status, and you'll be shown how to do that today, but also set work hours and communication standards and feedback protocols. So be clear about what your work hours are going to be and be consistent with them. And these boundaries are going to become even more important, again, if we all end up at home with flatmates and kids and teenagers from uni. So find your space and set your boundaries. And this might include things like, when my door's shut, it means I'm working, please don't open it. And it may also mean that you come up as a company with some general guidelines that you all want to stick to. Supporting your staff. So this is all about things like the right tools, the right equipment, providing online support. And I did mention that there will be a Teams channel that you guys can ask questions. So the idea here is that it's fast and it's responsive. So you need to know that if you've got tech issues, where you go, how you'll get help. You can't walk down the corridor or have someone come and show you at your desk. So how's that going to change, and how are you going to be able to get that same help? It's also about a lot of the regular check-ins that are needed all round. So make everyone aware of the fact that it's okay if they message you, and coach your colleagues and staff through changes in the way that you're working, and check in often. It is known that relationships with co-workers can suffer, so you might need to schedule in more talk time, given it's less likely to happen casually around coffee and so forth. And knowledge sharing can also be negatively affected, as people are less likely to share so much online as they do verbally. So encourage ways to do that at online meetings, even around, just coming up with how are people doing with this remote working, and what people are learning through it, because everyone's experiences obviously help. The next bit I want to do is a little bit on changing behaviours. So looking at the difference between working at the office, and just 3 different things here, and then working remotely. So the first one's all about in-person activities. And I guess if you've always driven a Nissan Tilda, is it a Tilda or a Tida? Anyway, then you change cars to a Toyota Hilux, you're going to need to make some adjustments. So you'll have to start thinking differently and acting differently. The same goes if you're used to working in an office, and the change to working remotely will require you to think and act differently there. So at the office, you can attend meetings, you can meet face-to-face, which allows for seeing and interacting and reading verbal and non-verbal cues. It's easier to bounce ideas off people with face-to-face interactions. We walk over to someone's desk for a quick in-person chat or to ask a question. And it's easy to chat amongst colleagues, have water cooler catch-ups, or discuss any number of updates during your lunch times and so forth. Take that into when you're working remotely, and the key is communication. We have to communicate. So working remotely many times may feel lonely and isolating, because you miss some face-to-face interaction with your manager, and it loses that sense of belonging for some people. So one of the biggest key factors when working remotely is staying connected with the rest of your team. And communication is the only way to solve that. And this is where all of the team stuff we're going to show you are exactly for that. So don't try and deal with problems alone. Don't try and isolate yourself from your team, and don't rely solely on the predefined scheduled meetings that you have. So leverage every opportunity to connect with your opportunity. That means you can message them on Microsoft Teams to discuss a problem or ask for an opinion, the same way as you would when you're working, in person. It also means following the group chats or the group dialogues within your teams, and making an effort to join in the conversation and contribute to it by sharing your ideas and views. So it can be social and it can be fun, but make an effort to join in those conversations. You also might have to read the room virtually as a remote worker, because you can't see someone's body language or know whether they're joking or smiling or upset about something. I mean, we can use all the emojis and the GIFs, as no doubt you'll play with, but more communication is likely to happen in writing, like instant messaging, etc. So on the other hand, be aware that messages can be misinterpreted easily, but don't let it stop you. Keep communicating. You also need to use the phone more. So pick up the phone, schedule talk time, and yeah, just talking to people just breaks that isolation as well. Hold virtual meetings like this one. And in these, use video as much as possible. I know people hate to sometimes and they'd rather turn it off. And I know that bandwidth and network connection sometimes prevents us from doing that, but it really is good. It connects us as people. We can see each other. And yeah, it's really important. So use your video. It's also important to continue driving your team culture. So if it's someone's birthday and you'd normally take cake in, then jump on a video call and connect, and remember to keep things still personal. You know, do gifts and celebratory things in chat. You know, you can still do some of this stuff. And the other one is to keep it human. So quite often when we send an email or we do something written rather than verbal, we jump straight into the business side of things. So remember to ask how people are doing and keep some time for that personal connection. The next one is following office norms. So at the office, we can tell by walking past someone if they're free, if they're at their desk, or if they're in a call or a meeting. We follow norms like having tea breaks together and breaking for lunch. You also get breaks by going up and grabbing a coffee or walking from one location to another in the middle of meetings, in between meetings, which adds space and disconnects you for a time and provides time to reset your thoughts and, you know, just take a break. And so we have routine times when we arrive at work, when we leave at work, and these are all just the norms of the way we do stuff. Even the drive to and from work, or going to the gym after work, or meeting friends after work, all help to switch off between work and home. Whereas when we take this into working remotely, we need to come up with more remote working as RW etiquette and new rules, which are not necessarily the same as what have been our office norms. So we're going to, as I said, show you how to update your status, and that just shows everyone else whether you're busy, whether you're available for a chat, or whether you're away from your desk. And other things. But yeah, some of this is automatic. So it reads your calendar and it shows that you're busy when you're in a meeting. And even if you're not in a meeting, if you want dedicated working time, you can mark yourself busy so that you can actually focus on what you're doing. It also means that we need to update our calendars more. So we need to schedule everything so that people can use the scheduling assistant when booking meetings, schedule in break times as well. If you book back-to-back meetings and you're online and you don't leave that time to walk between the meetings or to grab a coffee or to do whatever, you'll end up exhausted and you won't provide the best input when you are attending a meeting. So you actually need to put in that time and recognise the fact that you need a break. And revert to your expectations and follow your established work times, so start time, finish time, lunch. And then the last one on this changing behaviours slide is all about human interaction. So at the office, this is what stimulates your productivity. Being in the office environment forces you to do your work and do it productively. You can't just lie down and have a snooze at your desk. So we get our motivation from other people, and we also feel accountable. We have to try and replicate or change that when we get into the home mindset. We need to look at how we can stimulate the same productivity we get from the office environment. So this could be routine, set up, using our time effectively. A good way to do that is just to celebrate the small wins and take breaks. So get fresh air, get outside to keep things fresh, enjoy the freedoms of being out of the office to keep things interesting. So there's lots you can do, and there's lots you can't usually do in a traditional office setting. You could lift weights while you're on a call, or take an afternoon nap in your own bed, or take a break at 3 to do your washing and start dinner prep or whatever. There's lots of options and you can enjoy them. But again, be careful to make these stimulants rather than distractions. Okay, so the third M is about M's. about methods, and this is how you work. So your preparation at how you work needs to change, which is all about forming new habits and routines, creating new routines for work styles, and then avoiding distractions so that you can continue to work productively. Let's take a look, and this is just specifically at meetings, because online meetings will become the norm. You'll be on lots of online meetings that you need to be prepared for, and online meetings can be just a chat between two people where you can automatically turn it into a meeting, and you'll get very familiar with doing this on your phone or on your computer. So let's look at these meetings. The first one I have up on the checklist is do a test call, and I think we put that in the email that you all got, but it's important to do that test call because sometimes you'll just will have plugged your computer in, the audio will be different. You need to do things like the angle of your laptop so that the camera is not looking up your nose. I think I saw a lady on a Skype call on TV the other day, and it was very, not annoying, I can't think of the word now, but anyway, so check that the camera's not up your nose and that you actually have positioned yourself so that you've got your frame within the window. Check that your headset's on and that you can hear and you can talk and all the audio and microphones all working. Mute your mic until people come on because it stops all the background noise. Look at using your mobile as a backup, and we quite often do this. I'll be working on my computer, but I might actually join a Teams meeting on my mobile and have my Bluetooth headset or whatever on, and then I can still be on the meeting but be on my laptop and do different things as well. So think about using your mobile with that. Check that your power's plugged in, and do other things like closing the door to your meeting room, closing down all the other apps. I reckon that's really important so that you're not being distracted. Turning off the phone, unless of course you're using it like I just said, but don't just put it on vibrate, actually turn it off. Put out of office messages on, and this can be anything from making sure that your calendar shows that you're busy, or letting your family know that you're about to go on a meeting or into an online course and you're not going to be available for a certain time, or physically putting a post-it note saying I'm busy until such and such a time if you have to do it that way. Visit the restroom, have water on hand, and most of all, commit to being present. Be present to the people that are in that meeting and give them the time that they deserve. And of course, as I said, this could be relevant to in-person stuff too, but let's stick to remote at the moment. When you are on the call, leave space for others to talk, especially when you've got quite a few people on the call. So this could be for bandwidth displays or just not knowing exactly when you can't read them as easy as you can when you're in person. Summarize the calls and you'll be shown how you can record the meetings, you can get transcripts from them, and ask questions directly to individuals to avoid those disruptions. So make sure you address people the same way you would if you were to look at them in a meeting. For routines, it's good, I guess, well, working remotely requires discipline and boundaries because you need to hold yourself accountable to continue to complete every task you need to on time. So put your own systems in place to stick to these good productive habits and enjoy your productivity. Find your own routine. So everyone's is going to be a little bit different. For some, it could be kickstarting your day by queuing up some tasks that get your mind into work mode, you know, alarms, coffee, music, emails, to-do lists, whatever your type of rituals or routines are that suit you. Maybe you need to set structure into different work hours, or maybe you need those sporadic breaks throughout the day so you can go for a workout or get caught up on your chores because you can and because that's what works for you. Still get up early. This is still a job, and dress appropriately. I know we've all been laughing about this, but it does mean you can still put a nice shirt on and have jeans on the bottom half. It doesn't mean you have to go black tie, but think about what you wear from the office. But also, this is a mental thing. For some people, they have to get up and get dressed for work and move to a different office because that's the way they work best. For others, they're just, you know, it comes more naturally. But think about the way that you need to change your mindset to make sure that you're in work mode. And yeah, and the other thing is to signal the end of the day with routines as well. So this could be shutting down your laptop, playing a theme song, shutting the office door, whatever, to signify that you're moving now from your work time into your home time. And the last part of this methods and so forth is looking at distractions. And I think this is one of the main things. We live in a world where our devices seem to have complete and utter control over us. I saw some stats about how apparently we unlock our phone around 80 times every 24 hours and we touch it 2,617 times a day. Now, I know we use it for work, but it's not about how much you use your phone as much as it's about how much we impulsively check it. And technology fatigue is real. And if we can't disconnect, this has a massive effect on people. Distractions come in all sorts of ways, but they can be a form of procrastination. So we need to have a bit of discipline. Apart from family, remote workers are more prone to online distractions like web surfing and social media. Social media is often a common productivity diminisher. So discipline yourself to check social media only when you have a few minutes free, or if you're big on to the whole productivity thing, then you'll probably know that multitasking when working virtually can also reduce productivity. So many remote workers will say that if they try to combine work with housework, that doesn't work. So breaks are okay for this, but avoid mixing work time with other tasks. There's a time for work and there's a time for the rest of your responsibilities. Block time. So for specific tasks, if you absolutely block the time out and you close down all of your other apps, I actually do this. I've only just been doing it for the last few months successfully, where I, first thing in the morning, I'm working on a specific project, then I can just block that time, nothing else is open, and so I'm only working on that one thing. And I love seeing the progress after a week of an hour blocked each day. It's huge. So that block time and blocking it out in your calendar becomes really a great way of working. Disconnecting to get work done is another favourite of mine. So some people like to get really strict with email and don't check email between certain times. It increases productivity for sure if you can do it, but let others know what you're doing or include it in your email signature. You can also set up Outlook, and we'll put this in as one of our tips, but so that you can have it open, but it's disconnected. So it's a really useful tip because it means that I can be responding and clearing email and catching up on all of that, but not being distracted by the new ones arriving. But I'm still online, so I can still get to my other apps like Teams and different things. Another one is to see if there's quiet hours features on your apps, or turn on your apps or on your devices. So if you turn these quiet hours on, you'll only get urgent messages during those times. And then also to manage your notifications. So changing your status will help manage this and helps stop the onslaught of notifications, because when you need to focus, you don't want those notifications. One good tip would be to go through and tidy up all your notifications on your mobile phone. And by default, most of the notifications are on, but this is incredibly freeing. If you turn off the notifications, you actually get control back over what you're doing. And you're not so inclined to check your phone or be distracted when it flashes with a new Facebook, Instagram, email, text message, whatever notifications from whatever app. So you can actually control when you see those messages. You only go into them when you have the time and you've dedicated to do that. So that's my little remote working prezzo for you at the moment.